Awesome, it worked. Yay. Alrighty, worked. Oh, this doesn't work. Damn it. Let's see. There we go. Okay. If it works, it works. If not, whatever. Right. So there we go.
Oh crap. Alright, I guess we'll just start now. I want to thank you guys all for coming, showing up. It's cool because I didn't think that many people can show up, but cool. I guess welcome to the New York Houdini User Group. Been active for, I guess it should be starting at the third year, pretty much. I'm George Jimenez, I host. And basically I'm an alumni from SVAs, which is why I get this venue all the time. So it's pretty cool that, you know, everybody's showing up for something that a long time ago everybody thought it was supposed to be a pipe dream. But it's cool that, you know, everybody's now getting into it here in the city. We're very, very lucky enough to have Alvaro come all the way from Mexico. Even though he's working in the city, which was cool, because that's how we met him. But that, you know, that he's, you know, took a break from his busy day or relaxing to give us a couple of cool lessons and stuff like that. So hopefully everybody, you know, will learn something today, and if not, hopefully you guys can see the live stream afterwards. Is it gonna be?
If it doesn't work, I'll re-record it or something.
Oh, okay. So, well, anyway, thank you guys all for coming, and here's Albert. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, George, for having me. Thank you guys for coming. I didn't expect as much people. I know I'm scared. What am I going to do? Well, I'm trying to do this. Some of you, if you've seen my tutorials, you know I do this thing on Wednesday, LearnDay, and I stream live, and I make a fool out of myself on the internet. Because everybody tells me that I do things the wrong way, but whatever. It's meant to be like that. It's meant to be like a relaxed place where you can answer questions, you can experiment with things. Some people ask me very weird things to do on the stream, like, can you do like a really huge ocean and a boulder? I'm like, not right now. But sometimes I try crazy things, and cool things come out of that. And I like the interaction with people. That's why I do those things live, because that's pretty great to see the other side of what I teach sometimes. Because when you do a tutorial recorded, you don't get to have that interaction. And it's great because people come up with crazy ideas that you're like, oh, I never thought of that thing like that, and you get new ideas, which is great. So that being said, this is not like a lecture. If you have questions, please interrupt. How much time do we have here?
Oh, we have till 9:30.
Okay, we have time. If you guys have questions, I'm good. Staying until you guys want to go, whatever. So I do have some, this is the weird part. I do have something prepared. That's the weird part. Generally, I don't really prepare as much because, well, sometimes I do have some topics that I want to follow and whatever, but I do leave it open so I can talk about anything. I do have 3 topics that I want to talk about today. But again, if you have any questions, you can just interrupt me at any time, and we can answer questions. Or if I do something wrong, please help me out because I'm still learning. All right, so this is.
Should I turn off the lights over here?
I don't know. You think that looks all right? All right, so this is the topics I'm going to try to talk today. HDAs, and HDAs are great, but you also have to be careful with them, especially when you are in the middle of crazy production and you have to be doing changes and some shots are already done and you make a change and you break all the other scenes and the artists come at you screaming with forks and they want to kill you because you broke their scene. You have to be careful, and I'm going to talk a little about that because that's something I experienced in when I was working in Jumanji. Everything was like really fast. It's due yesterday and whatever. No? There's also the new everybody. We all want to do Vellum stuff. It's great. There's a few things that are not solved yet. Let's say everything's really new. So I prepare a simple example. This is just combining a string and a cloth, which is something that I get asked about sometimes. And it took me a while to figure it out, like, how do you mix those two things together? I was like, wow. And I figured out that, and now I'm going to show you what I did for that. Procedural modeling, which is why I'm here in New York, basically. We are doing a lot of procedural modeling here. It's something that most people in Houdini don't think about the area that I'm going to talk about. They think about more experimental modeling, like doing some crazy bags or a solver and just let it go. And we're going to talk more about procedural modeling with controlling what you generate, like with specific purpose of it. All right, so let's start with the HDA. And have a simple file prepared. I don't have that much slides, all right? Don't get excited. So, all right, we're going to do a really simple asset. I guess this is my start scene. If it plays, all right, so I have this. This is now my start scene. Let me open the start scene. This one. Okay, so I have a really simple scene here with just an emitter. Let's say this is going to be a splash of water or something, whatever. It's flashing, right? It's something that, let's say this, we are going to make this into an asset. There's several reasons why you would like to make this into an asset. One of them is maybe at your company everybody doesn't have FX licenses, and if you pack this FX things into HDAs, you can use it in the what's the name of the other one? The core Houdini. So that's pretty cool. That you can also use the Vellum HDA for that. Another thing is reusability. You can do this and use it in different shots, and that's what we're going to talk about here. So we have this really simple particle simulation. I'm just emitting from a sphere that has been modified, and I have this really simple network in pops. So now let's try to make an HDA of this thing. I'm gonna go all the way up here, and it's gonna have a few things are gonna happen here, a few issues, and I wanna go through that. So I select this thing, and then I go new digital asset. Create a subnet, yes, sure. So let's save this in the project. So this is another thing, when you do HDAs, there should be like, I always save them in the project. If you save it globally, it might lead into a lot of assets in every scene. So let's call this make splash 2. So I have one already. Okay. Splash. All right. So you can also do versioning here. If you don't know, you can just I guess we all saw that Jeff talk about HDAs. You can do colon and do 1 or 2 here to version this, guys, and you can later just do a duplicate and name that up the version, and you would show the latest version in the scene. I'm not gonna do any versioning right now, so splash 1, Now, there are some issues already, like that. Whenever you do HDAs, you have to contain everything in that single node. And this thing is saying, oh, it's referencing something outside of this node. And it's true, because this ground plane, it's outside. And when I created that, it creates that outside node, and then it's referencing the top inside. So it's saying, this thing is not contained in the file, dude. So it's complaining. So let's, that's one issue we have to fix there. So let me save this scene as splash HDA live. Woo. All right, so there are some issues here. The first issue is that reference outside here. So we go here. This ground plane is, you can see here is referencing that node outside of this node. So it's just a ground plane, so we can actually just delete that and it will use these values here, so nothing happens. The reference is gone. If we save this now, it's not going to complain anymore. Everything is good. We can even go and delete that guy. We don't need it anymore. It's just a placeholder. All right, so now let's say we want to, anytime we want to do an HDA, we need to expose parameters. Maybe there's another artist that is not that familiar with Houdini, and we can just make it easy for them, just making a simpler HDA. So let's hide the default attribute. Let's just make those invisible. And those folders are these ones here, if you know. It's just, now we have nothing, which is cool. Now we can expose whatever we want from here. Let's say we want to expose, well, the dynamic parts of this, right? Let's say from the pop force we have like a noise there. There is a fluid here, pop fluid, and let's expose this parameter right here just by dragging it here. So that's the amplitude. Let's call it noise 1 because we're gonna add another one later. And let's expose let's say the swirl size. What is this? Why is this thing going on? Swirl size, apply. Okay, so now we should have, as soon as did I save that? Yeah. Go out here. Okay, so we now have two parameters. So let's say this is the parameters I needed for this shot, right? I'm gonna save this guy and I'm gonna mesh it. It's just no longer editable, and it's doing the same exact thing, but I want to give it more swirl, smaller swirls, maybe more amplitude on the noise, and I show it to the supervisor, and he's like, "You are amazing! Wow, that is super! That never something you hear a supervisor say." But let's say this shot is done, and you're in a hurry, and you're like, "Yeah, just continue with the next shot," and you're like, "Cool, shot 1 done. Let me open shot 2, and let's say it's gonna be called. Let me do a new scene completely, and save this as which was here live 2. So I have a new scene, and I want to do this splash thing I created. Which where did I put that? Oh, this is a new scene. I have to install the library. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna install that. Which is the great thing about assets is this: you can just open a new scene. You have that asset ready for you instantaneously, and you have the parameters there, right? Well, turns out this shot, it doesn't look the same way. The supervisor wants some noise, some wind in the x-axis. So you're like, all right, I didn't expose that. So you go to the tech artist, and he's like, oh, the T, and he's like, all right, I'll modify that for you. So we go, and let's say we add some wind. And we add. So here's the important part. Whatever you already have in your asset, don't touch it. Just don't touch it, and don't modify it. It's just like, don't do it. So let's say this is gonna be wind. And we're gonna add within the x-axis, like let's say 10, maybe some noise as well on that axis. And if we run this, it starts going in the x-axis, and that's what you need, right? So if you add these parameters as I did right now, just I added values to these things, that's when you are gonna break the other scene. Because the other scene is gonna inherit these parameters. So we can do it. We could try it. Let's say we're gonna edit the asset and say, all right, this is the wind thingy. Let's add it. And this is gonna be, what the? No, I don't want that. Okay, let's add the whole thing, whatever. We can maybe add wind in other directions and stop bothering us. Wind. And amplitude for the noise. Wind, noise. Alright, so when I do that, I have default values here. If you go to this tab here, there's default values. So when I save this guy, except now if I go back here, you can see these guys are default there. Have two parameters now, and these are the default values because you can see they are not bold. If we open the other scene, let's say the other artist is working or whatever, and he's like, all right, time to render my awesome shot that I did. And he goes, opens the scene, and turns out there's values here, and the simulation changed. Like, oh hell, this is not what I did. Supervisor's gonna kill me. What the hell happened here? So what you do here is, or what I do, is I don't add any defaults to the new things you add on top of. You add the ability to modify the asset, but you don't add default values. So basically you don't modify what is already there. And this is specific when you have like a tool that is already being used, right? Or maybe people have been using it for a month and they say, we want something else. If you change it and somebody opens an old file, they're gonna kill you. Like, dude, it's totally broken. So don't do that. At least I try not to do it. So let's just zero this default, so we're not modifying these guys, these values. We are giving the ability to modify them, but not giving them default values. So in this shot, this is shot 2, let's give it the values that I want. Maybe 3 here. And now this thing works. Let me save this, save the node, and match the current definition. If I go to the other shot, you can see this thing. As soon as you touch it, these things update. It's like, that's pretty cool. Like, you can think of a lot of things you can do with these things. It just like instantly updates. If you are in a production environment and you have all these tools in a single place, everybody has the latest every time. It's like, it's great. You don't even have to restart Houdini. It's like, or your scene. It's like, what? All right, so this scene, which is shot 1, should be just doing the boring thing. Sorry, supervisor. Supervisor like that. Sorry, it's cool. So that works. The other shot works. The parameters are there in case. Oh, you know what? Now that I saw the other one, add a little bit of noise to this one. I mean, wind. So you can add wind to this if that happens. So that's what I learned when I was doing specifically the gunshots, the gun hits in Jumanji. The idea was to just do one HDA of ground hits of the bullets, and then that will solve everything, but it didn't. So yeah, whenever you think it's gonna be simple, it isn't. So yeah, that's about it for HDAs. If you do another shot needs more things, you follow the same things. You create your initial asset, you add the new requirements. Make sure to keep your changes isolated, so don't modify anything that is there. Make sure you do that, because that would break things. You can say that you could also maybe save versions, make a new version of the tool, but that requires you to change the tool in your scene manually and whatever. So it depends on what you need or whatever. Then you save your asset and your profit, and then repeat. Any questions?
Yeah, if you were to create a new version of it, would an old scene reference the old version, or would it automatically reference the newest version?
No, whatever you have created in your scene, it stays like that. It doesn't update your version. You have to manually do that. Yeah, that is like a fail-safe. For example, if you open like a really old scene of Houdini, you might have that precious point node that we all love, but now we're sad it's gone, and it's there. It doesn't get replaced with a new one or goes away. It's there. So whatever is on the scene, it's there. If you want to update the version, you have to create the node manually, I think.
Yeah, I was wondering what challenges you face with updating the HDA for the show Jumanji that you were mentioning.
Well, the idea in Jumanji was a little bit. There wasn't like any much time to do the shots, the effects. It was like really late on the production. So basically, when I got there, it was like, you got 1 week to do explosions and bullet hits and missile trails and debris and whatever. And I'm like, what? And it's like 6, 7 shots. And I'm like, what? Really? And they have to look exactly like the rep, because in the shots, the plate has real explosions. We had to enhance with more explosions. So you had to look exactly like the explosion in the shot. It's just like horrible, because when there's nothing there, you can get away with a lot. But when there's another explosion there, it's just like you're just comparing the two, like, doesn't look the same, doesn't move the same, looks weird, and that happened. So the idea was we would create one explosion asset and one bullet hit asset, and then we will use it in all the shots. But all the shots had different conditions, different. They will film in different locations, different cameras, so it didn't work. We had to do everyone manually. The bullet hits, I did create an HDA for them, so I did exactly this. I created one asset for the first scene, for the first shot, did whatever I needed in that shot, added debris, exporting to Arnold, debris, stuff, whatever, and then next shot, it was like, okay, this should work. It didn't work. Some shots even had like bullet hits, so I have to match them as well. I had to modify wind, forces, make it sculpted basically for the shot. So I have to do this, like add more parameters, and then modify other parameters, and then next shot, same thing, modify parameters, make them, yeah, and also you all these shots are like tracked, 3D tracked. So that's another thing. You get a shot and they're like, all right, the scale is correct. It's the same scale as the other previous shot. It's not. It's like 10 times bigger or whatever. And you're like, oh, shit. So yeah, that happens in production sometimes. Any other questions? Yeah? I'm that good, huh? Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about Vellum. And look at that. That is not CG, just so you know. Okay, no. All right, so let's try. This is not gonna be like a full thing. I'm just gonna go like a fast overview of what I did, because if not, we're gonna be here all night. Let's open that thingy. Where are you? Is this the one? Oh. I don't even see my file. Oh, this is not the one. Where are you? Had another one that was better. Damn it. Here. I had more time to do this. I was recreating this scene the other day, and I was like, yeah, this thing is weird. Whatever. Alright, so this is the scene I made. So what's happening here? So there's two Vellum components here. One is simulating the string or the rope, and the other one is simulating the cloth, and the cloth is attached to the rope, which we got these really nice demos from Side Effects when they announced this, and they never gives us like any help or scenes or whatever, like figure it out. So yeah, if anybody knows some of those scenes or have them, please share them. So what I did is it's not that hard. So this is like a lot of stuff, but this is basically the modeling part. All the Vellum thing is just this. This is just, I model these things, these knots and whatever. So that is just not part of what the. This is just like modeling. The Vellum thing it's just like that. Basically those 5 nodes do the whole thing. These guys. So there's a little bit of preparation you need to do. Like I have a line which is gonna be my string, and I have a grid which is gonna be my flag or my cloth. And then I create a group. This is the important part. I create a primitive group for the rope and a primitive group for the flag. I also created UVs for the cloth. The UVs go really well with Vellum. They just take the UVs and go. Like it's pretty fun. I just created a group expression here to get the first and the last points, and those are going to be the ones that I'm going to attach to the pole. Which is not attached. They basically just are pinned in place. So then this is the funky part. You need to merge all this stuff. So basically you make one object of everything you want to simulate. Even if there's a string and a cloth, these things go together in the merge. Because at first I actually wanted to do like all these for the string and then repeat all that for the flag, and I couldn't figure out how you will reference one from the other. Like, how do I attach this to the string now? It's like, it's crazy. But it turns out you can just do this thing. And then what I'm doing here is just a regular Vellum constraint, and I'm turning this into a string. And this is the key part. You just tell it which of your groups you're going to turn into string, which in this case is the rope group. And then I do the same thing, but now for the fabric, which is the cloth element, the fabric group, which basically just makes what you want. You are basically just separating your elements and telling Vellum exactly what it needs for that. Then I just pin the points that I prepared before, the start and end of the string. And this is the key part for attaching the clothes to the string, which is a glue constraint. Basically everything in Vellum is just constraints, which is just a funky way to say attributes for Vellum, because this is a bunch of attributes. You see this node is exactly the same node here, but it's just a bunch of properties with it. So it's just setting properties to those primitives and points. It's not that hard. It's very simple. So you say that you want to attach the fabric to the rope. Then you do a Vellum solver, and then you run that, and it works. What? And it works pretty well. Sometimes the glue can get it can get like attached to other parts of the flag, can get attached to the string. You just have to be careful, or just maybe isolate the areas you want to glue, if that is even possible. Yeah, there's a cluster attribute you can use. And that's basically it. It's not that hard. The hard part was figuring out that you actually have to merge all these things together, because the Vellum, as you know, it's different for whatever else we have seen in Houdini is different. But it is still DOPS. If you don't know, if you go inside this thing, it's just a DOP network here with a bunch of properties. and a bunch of other objects here. So it's just running dubs in the background. It's just exposing more and more of the dynamic things to subs, which is more of what we like. So yeah, after that, let's say if I disable the glue, you can see both are being animated, but they are not being glued. They are both being simulated as they should, but they're not being glued by this guy. And that's it. It's pretty simple. If I tried in another example, also I want to tell you this. This is a good tip here. You can see the cloud has a mass attribute here, and we are really using in DOPS that the mass is like for the whole object. Here in Vellum, everything is on points, so you have to always think that this is just calculating points. So if your mass is really high here, let's by default it's like 0.1, I think. That's still really high. That it's gonna stretch a lot. Not as much, but if I put like 1 here, what that means is that mass is for each point on the cloth. So if you multiply that, you can see the string is stretching more now, because that one is multiplied by each one of those points. So if whenever you high-res your cloth, you have to take into account the mass, because you're gonna have more points and the mass is gonna be bigger, right? It's gonna be multiplied by each one of those points. So you have to take that into consideration. That we're just basically, this is basically like a grains 2.0. It's just moving points around. I was going to say something about Maya, but I'm gonna save it. So yeah, after that I just do standard Houdini things. I just polywire the string there. I just did some modeling in Houdini to to do these guys here. Even the tip of the flag. Who's gonna see that? Me. And yeah, that's what I did for that. It's the key aspect of this is prepare your inputs with the right groups and stuff, and you will manage whatever you want also, if you want this guy to be collidable, you can just plug it here in the third input of that, like the pole. If the flag is moving back and forward, right now it won't collide with that, but if you plug that in, which would be some of these tubes, this guy, you can plug this there, and if we make the wind go the other direction, prepare for craziness. Yeah, that is weird, but it's colliding with it. So yeah, Vellum, it's really cool that being that you can do that within a laptop in a few seconds is like, what? Great. So any questions about this section? No? If I'm going to do something more like this, that I'm going to be selecting points to pin around and just have like geometry for this, I will do it in SOPs. But if I'm going to maybe interact with a rigid body object, I will do that, or grains or water or whatever, I will do that in DOPS, because all the connections are it's simpler than in DOPS. You know, the relationships between the different solvers, it's simpler to manage in DOPS. That'll be really crazy to, let's say, do a flip fluid, moving a flag or whatever, will be kind of weird in SOPs. It's not that hard. All right, so, no? Questions? No? You want to see the little dog again? All right, so let's talk about a little procedural modeling. And if you see really small here is inventive modeling, and that's how I see this thing I'm going to talk about here. Let's say if you want to model this building, like we've been trying to do, right, David? David has been doing a lot of procedural buildings and stuff. You basically have to like invent a modeler, basically. Like if you think like a person that does buildings, you're kind of building that person in a way. You say, all right, this is the footprint. Build me a building from that, and you have to think about how high that's going to be, what's going to be on the top of it, how many windows, and that system or thing you're building has to figure that out. So that's why I think that you're kind of inventing modeling in a way. So we're gonna do, oh, that's my big face. Horrible. Let's try to do something. Oh, why am I not in the right project? Let's do, I'm gonna try to do this window asset. Let's hope that it works. So I have it done here already, but let's try to build a little bit of it. Let me just show the result and see what we can do. So this is what I did. It's like, what? You did that? That's super simple. I can do that in 5 minutes. Yeah, you can. But what if I say, well, give me more one of those glasses or window thingies in one direction or the other direction, and you can do that and modify it however you want. And let's say you want to open the window, like let's say you want to make the window, animate the window, or randomize that window opening up and down so it doesn't feel like it's the same window in all buildings or whatever. So this is a really simple example, but I'm gonna show you the key things. This whole thing is just based on this grid. So that's the base for everything. So that's how I always simplify stuff. Let me open a reference image. Reference. So this, hopefully you can see that window is white on white. So this is a classic window on a lot of homes or whatever, and this just that it has like panels, and this panel is basically the same, and there's a frame. Yeah, it's a frame. So there's a lot of more detail there, but we want to simplify it for this a little bit. So I always think of the simpler shape and what can I do with the most simple thing. I actually wanted to say, let's just do this thing and then duplicate it and blah, but there's like, that's too much. So I got the base for this, one of these pieces, right? And that is basically a grid. If you think about it, it's just like, wow, that's a grid, right? It's a freaking grid. So that's what I did. I did a grid with 2 by 3, 4, whatever. And I am already here doing some sizing here. I'm getting the rows and columns and multiplying that by 2 for getting that thing to be as big as the columns. So that's one thing that you can do really cool in Houdini. You can just link parameters here really fast. If you don't know how to do that, some people are afraid of writing these little snippets of code. It's like, I don't want to write code. Well, you don't really have to. Like, let's say we have this guy, and let's say we want that 3 by 4, and we want to control the size with that. Just get the rows. The rows are the, let's say, the things that are wrong. You can just double click this and drag it to the other parameter and say relative reference, and let's say I'm just gonna multiply this by 2, so it's a little bit wider. So I just wrote some code and I didn't do anything. So relative reference and by 2, that's the parameters are connected now, right? It's really simple. So now after that, well, these things, I do a poly extrude for that. You get like the little frames for each one of those things, the little panels of glass. Just add some color there for clarity. It's still flat. Just did an inset on that. But you can see that we are actually kind of modeling, inventing modeling, like I was saying. Then I do another extrude, and I extrude only that part. And here's one thing that people kind of get wrong sometimes in Houdini, and they're like, oh, Houdini is not really procedural, everything breaks. And I'm like, well, you should do it the right way, dude. So let's say, what am I really doing here? So if you think how you would model this in reality, you would, let's say that you do this extrusion. What's happening here is you're basically selecting all those faces and then you're extruding. So the selection part is where people get this wrong sometimes. So let's say if I do it here, let's say I had this grid and I select the faces, like physically or humanly select the faces, and do a poly extrude on that. I can get the same result. I can just insert this, change this to individual elements, and I can do that, right? It's working the same. It's working exactly the same. It looks exactly the same as the previous example. But if I go and modify this guy, it's broken. You can see it's broken here and stuff. Why? Oh, this didn't even select the faces. Weird. This thing is not doing what I was expecting to do. Let's do it how it's supposed to do it. It was not doing it. Alright. So this is what happens sometimes. You just get a selection here, a group, right? So when you modify this guy, it's not gonna work. It's gonna break because the faces are changing, right? The underlying structure of what you're modifying, it's not the same. And Houdini, these numbers here that Houdini it's reading there, it's actually those primitive numbers, or those face numbers. If you can see it like that, you can see each one of the components in Houdini has a number. There a number and index and whatever. And whenever you modify this, well, there's more. So Houdini has to assign a number to the next ones. So as long as you have the like 3 by 3 or whatever you did when you selected this, it would work. But if you have a selection, then it's not gonna work predictably, right? So if you do things, if you destroy things like with an edit node, which is a destructive tool here, let's say edit. Let's move some points there because, oh, I want this to be a little bit higher. Yay. So when you go back and modify this, you're like, oh, Houdini sucks. Houdini is not procedural. Yeah, because you are you're referencing the points exactly, those points specifically, and Houdini is like, all right, this changed, this is point A now, I'm gonna move that up, whatever. So there's ways to avoid this. Again, we are inventing how you would do it without destroying that. So the extrude, if the tool has nothing, it's just gonna do it on everything. So that's what's happening here. This extrude can output groups. You can see here I activated some groups. I even renamed this to glass group. So that's how the tools kind of communicate with each other. Like this tool, you're saying, oh, please, now that you created that geometry, can you please give me groups for that? And the node is like, sure, why not? Have nothing else to do. So I use this extrude side group that Houdini produces, or the node produces, to give that color to those primitives. And basically that's, instead of me selecting those primitives directly, we're kind of procedurally selecting them. As the node generates more geometry, nodes, oh, these are the sides, these are the back, and this is the front of the geometry created. Here you go. So everything works downstream. Here I'm doing the same thing. I'm extruding the side to get the depth of this. And then things get crazy a little bit here because I wanted to, believe me, this can get really crazy. So I wanted to get the frame of this, I wanted to get a little bit more thick instead of being this little frame there. So I had to do some tricks with groups, which is another way to select stuff in procedurally. So what I'm doing here, I'm using the grouping by bounding box, which is basically, let's create a group. You can create like a box, and then whatever is inside that box, it will be in that group. So let's call this inside group. And you can see right now it's selecting everything because because this thing is activated basically. I want to select points, and I want to use this bounding box. You can see this little box, blue box there. You can move that around, and whatever's inside, it's gonna be grouped. You can see those points are now yellow. So what I'm doing here in this node so I don't have to move that guy around or whatever. So basically I had to select the points on the top and the points top and bottom and sides to scale this up a little bit. Because if I just do it in the just directly, like grouping first I just grouped the inside and left the outside ungrouped. And I tried doing that, but it looks wrong. You can see, I can show you how it looks. Here should window edges. Let's see. Yes. 1.01, you can see 1.1. You can see this, since this is scaling from the center, these lines here are being pushed to the side. So when the window is bigger, it's just not doing the right thing, because basically it's scaling from here to everywhere. So I said, okay, there must be a better way for this. So instead of just separating the top and bottom, all the edges, I separated it into bottom, top, and sides with a bunch of groups as well. And what I'm doing with this group is I'm getting, with a little expression here, I'm just getting the bounding box. The B box thing is just get me the bounding box of the size in X, which is basically giving me from here to the other side. And that is going to always update whenever you make your window bigger or smaller. And then I'm adding 1 to that, so it goes out of that. So it selects also the points here on the very edge. You can see if I already modified this. If I don't do that, it's just gonna give me the bounding box up to here, right? Something weird is happening. But put +1. So then I did the same for the other side, and then I just combined those groups, basically getting, since I group what I don't want, I just reverse those groups in any other groups. So the group combine, I use a lot the group combine to reverse groups, like get whatever you don't selected, something like that. And then I just scale it up in this. So that all that thing was to just scale it up individually, and then and on the sides. So now this thing is correct. It's not pinching those edges. So as I said, we're kind of building, modeling, inventing it. So now I just I did some. I previously grouped the glass, if you remember, these panels of glass. So with this facet, you can basically at each point just separate the points with these unique points. So basically each face becomes individual. And then with that group, I move that group here to position it inside the frame, because previously, if this thing's not working, yeah, I changed this. Wrong class group. Okay. So now you can see that before the glass was back here because I just extruded forwards. So the glass was here, and that's now where the glass panel should be. So with this positioning, I just move it inside. And here I'm getting actually a reference to how much I extruded it from the other guy here. So whenever I change this number, if I, whatever size I use here, that glass is always going to be in the center, because I'm basically referencing this parameter here. I'm getting that number and dividing it by 2, so I'm getting half of that width, and I'm putting the panel always in the center. So then I'll just fuse it back together, do some polybeveling on all those things. And then the frame, for the frame I use this box. If you connect something to the box, just gives you a bounding box basically of whatever you plug. So I'm getting this. Then I just delete everything inside, please, and leave the edges, extrude those, polybevel those, merge it back, and I have the frame, right? So since I'm taking the bounding box of whatever I'm producing here, it's always gonna be, always gonna match the whatever's inside of the frame, right? So then I have another node which I took the precaution to create a group from that. Oh, I didn't talk about this. I just did another a transform and moved the piece we just created, basically to copy it. Created a group to isolate it for later, and then we have both top and bottom of the window, right? So these guys are always going to be the same. If you want to do them differently, they have different panels. You can do a more complex system. Do the same for the other, or maybe do one HDA from one and reference it, and you have parameters for both or something like that. Then I just using that group that I created previously, I can move that window if I want to open it. This would be maybe created into an HDA or a parameter you're gonna be randomizing when you copy these things or whatever. And that's it. It's basically, it's not that hard, but you have to kind of think how you will kind of create this system that will produce you that result, right? You're not selecting specific faces or whatever. You are thinking more like, all right, I need the outer edges. How do I select those without just selecting them directly? So yeah, any questions?
Suppose the producer came back, he likes the window pane, and he wants you to break a couple of the panes. Would you select some of the window pane and put them into a group, or would you just select them individually and run the simulation?
If you're gonna do that, you can. I already have a group for the glass here, so you could actually just take this and say, all right, give me just the glass group, and you can see I already have that. And from that, you can say, all right, I'm gonna break just these two or these two, and then take that into tops or whatever. If you can actually, I don't know, maybe do it here. Let's say I want to break those, and you go to, oh no, this is gonna be weird. What happened? For my fracture, scatter. Let's just delete those. Scatter on those ones. Oh, we can use a new thingy. Material fracture, which is the new the new black. You have like a class thing here. You can do it per piece, and you can kind of have this ready for simulation. The borders are weird and stuff, but you can then take this to our RBD and simulate it wherever.
And you would just take that out as a separate HDA?
Not really. If you wanna integrate this into your system, like some of them will be broken, you could just do it like this. Maybe select a few of them randomly, and then those are broken. You could integrate this into an HDA if you want, or you could create another tool which just takes this. Maybe this part is a tool that takes a glass group or any group, and then from that group you select a few primitives, randomize them, and break them, and you can do that. Yeah, you can separate any part that you are doing usability. You can separate it into an HDA if you want, and make it a new tool. Let's say. Any other questions?
Yeah, if you wanted, like, let's say, you mentioned it before, like, let's say you want 10 windows, and each window to have a different height. I'm just curious, how would you go about doing that?
I don't know. I don't know, man. Well, let me delete this. Let's see, what is happening here? Something weird happened. Let me open this scene again. Discord. So, if you want to do that, there's a few things you could do. If I make all this thing into an asset, I could do it, but let's just do it the lazy way for now. You could do it in a for loop. What? Let's say I'm gonna create 10 of these things. I'm gonna do a for number, I'm gonna do 10, and then you just plug the whole system inside here, and magic happens whenever I get to move this freaking node. So let's plug, what do we want to randomize here? Let's think about it. We could just randomize the scale, you said? Okay, let's plug this guy here, this guy there, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna randomize that thing. David, help.
First, I would create 10 different grids.
So let's try. Let's see if we can work. I always like to rename these things. The name is too long. Let's try randomizing this with just the referencing this parameter here. Let's see if it works. Because this guy doesn't have an input, it's not really inside the loop. Let's try. Let's try getting the detail attribute. There's a detail attribute in this guy, which is the iteration, which basically says what number of the loop you're on, 0, 1, 2, 3. It's gonna change every loop. So we get that number, detail. This is where you have to write some code. I'm sorry, but yeah, you have to. Iteration, it's the number of the parameter, and then let's get the first attribute. So that is giving us 9, which is cool, it's working. And we can do that as well here, and then just give it a random home. Where's home? That you can randomize this parameter. Basically, we're getting just that counter. Basically, if the first time the loop goes, it's just gonna be 0. The next time it's gonna be 1. So we're getting that number here, and I'm gonna use that number to randomize it. So I'm just creating numbers between 0 and 1 there, which is not useful. Let's multiply this by, let's say, 5, and let's try to do the same thing here. Hopefully this works. Let's give it another seed to this so it gives us different values. And this is not gonna work. Actually, I need to plug all this thing. Where is it? Yeah, I'm gonna plug all these into the loop. And everything breaks. Yay! Oh, because I disconnected this guy. So there you go, we have a bunch of windows. Let me move them so you can have your fancy windows. Where are you? Remove them at the very end. Doesn't look like the right way to do it, but we could use the same attribute here to move them. Let's say in X, that detail attribute. And if we go here, we don't have enough space times 5. So it's kind of working. I am not sure what's happening. Oh, this is running no. Plus 5. This is bigger. Plus 20? No. This is worse than before. Times 10. So there we go. That's your windows. These guys are too small in one direction, but it's working. Thank God. Oh yeah, it's this parameter. Yeah, you can give it a fit number because this is generated. Sometimes it's generating 0. The random expression generates numbers between 0 and 1. You can just go and say fit the 0 and 1 value between I don't know, a 3 and 8, and then there you go. It works. Look at that. Seems like looks like I know what I'm doing, right? You could do the same for the other attribute, like fit it between 2 values and give it a different seed, and there you go. So there's random windows. You can also randomize the opening of it. Whatever other attribute, you can randomize it here with using that same index. You can just randomize more parameters. Yeah.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Come on. I have nothing else to do. It's the end. You're gonna have to see my face. One thing I forgot to mention is, now that this face is there, I want to thank you guys for being here, because I realized last night that I've been doing training for 10 years. I started in 2009 doing Houdini training, and I was like, what, really? So this year is the 10th anniversary of me doing this crazy thing. I'm really happy about it, because that has given me a lot of cool opportunities, like meeting you guys, a lot of people, cool people, traveling all over the world, making money, living, eating, things like that. But yeah, I'm really happy because I really care about education. I'm not like just trying to look at me, look at what I can do, admire me, whatever. I really care about people. If you know any of the training I've done, I try to support everyone. I'm not like, buy this and whatever, do whatever you think, you know. And no, a lot of people message me. I help a lot of people with the training, even people that haven't bought anything for me ask me questions directly. If I have time, I help them. It's really important because I learned like that. A lot of people help me and continue helping me. So it's great that the Houdini community it's so helpful with everyone. just don't like those people that they always want a hip file for everything. Try it yourself first. Oh man, whatever. So yeah, thank you for all these amazing years, and hopefully we can keep doing this training thing for a while. Any questions? No?
Did you get that cute, the tab key? It had like icons above it.
Oh, that thing! Whoa! Somebody noticed that
I
thing.
didn't ask you about that.
So yeah, that thing is a tool I created. It's called Tab 2, which is okay. It's that combination of tab and tattoo. I don't know. I didn't want to call it Tab 2, so I call it Tab 2. Yeah, whatever. I thought it was fancy, and then whatever. So it's a tool you can buy from my website. It's not free. I created it. It took me a while to figure out how to make it work. I'm basically I like pretty things, and this looks pretty. I love the icons. Like this is pretty cool. Like, oh, that's not it. It's in dubs. You find like really cool icons when you're using this tool. Print. Oh, where is it? Sorry? No, it's all Python basically. It's Python. It's all just Python. As you can see, it works pretty good. I use it in my 4K monitor, and it works just really well. So yeah, I like those icons, and I like pretty things. And I was like, there's a tool I use in Linux to run commands like this. So I was like, how could you do something like that in Houdini? So I didn't think I would be able to do it, but it works. It works pretty well. There's a lot of kinks still, like at least some tools that shouldn't be there and whatever, but it works pretty well. And it has some pretty interesting things, like it connects your nodes automatically. I'm so useless without it now. Like if I create a null, just connects the node for me and drops it right away. Like if you do that with the regular tab, you can see it null, and then okay, I have to move this, click, and then another click. Okay, that was horrible. So yeah, it does that. It has a lot of other things like presets, history. You can see there's the previous nodes I created, saves nodes there. There's this if you want to see like a help panel. There's this panel that shows you. Whoa, seems like it's broken. Okay. It seems to have a bug, but it's trying to show you a window that it shows you the help of the tool you are selecting. I'm not sure why it's broken. Probably have to fix that. Sorry. Now I can't use it anymore. It's gone. Now. So yeah, it shows you like it opens the Houdini help, tells you what the tool does, shows you here, and it's cool. It should work. Sorry?
How much is the plugin?
It's $25. It does this cool thing for Bex, like it shows you like the functions of Bex. So if you're looking for point, it shows you how to add a point and shows you the help right here. So instead of opening help and whatever, I want to add more things to it. There's a way to save presets and all that stuff. You can make it bigger if you're blind like me. Like, look at and it still works. Look at that. Look at that. You have never seen that icon that big, right? But yeah, don't do that. Now I don't know how to turn it, make it smaller. So yeah, you could use it if you have a high DPI monitor like the one I have at home. You can use it like this. You can see this icon looks pretty cool. There's a few things it does. You can even show the standard tab from there if you don't want to click tab. I don't know, press tab, whatever. It is. Well, it's not PyQt, it's PySide. Yeah. Because PySide is the new black, I guess. Yeah, it is that kind of window. You can save nodes, you can save chains of nodes, like let's say, or you can create multiple nodes. Let's create a geo. Where am I? Let's create a box, and then you can stash that. You can see there's a little box there, and then you can create a material after that, and then null, and then press enter, and it creates those 3 nodes, and it creates 7 here, like. Created those 3 nodes like really fast. You can even save nodes, like if you select those guys and say I'm gonna save these guys. If I can press say call this preset 1. Now it's just saved. You can see there's even a little message there. If you want to call that, you just press dot and it shows you your presets there. You can have a list of presets there, whatever. You can actually save whatever. You can say, even if you have like notes, whatever thing you can create here, you can grab everything and save it. Like let's say crazy preset. That is a preset now. You can see it's there, and it also does it by context. You can see the other one was in subs, so there's no 2 presets there. That is in Geo, so it shows you just that. So if you select that one, just creates that thing. You can see this even save the asset we had there. Like saves everything. Like that's pretty cool. All right. Any other questions?
I have a question it's procedural modeling and perhaps a little outside the scope of what you just showed. I don't want to keep everyone here super late, so if I ask it and it's a bit too much to get into, maybe you can just point me in the right direction. Let's say you have a series of points and you want to iterate over them, give them all a attribute, and then you want to iterate over them again and reference the attribute you just assigned. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm trying to do it in for loops where I'll go over.
Is that attribute something you're controlling or just a random number? Or
Yeah, something I'm controlling.
okay. Well, you might need to do maybe 2 wrangles. Do one for the first iteration, and then in the second one, if you're adding that attribute, just reference that in the second attribute and the second wrangle, because that's wrangles are tricky because wrangles don't work like linearly. If you have 10 points, the wrangle will go like do it all at once. It's not. It doesn't go like 1 point at a time. Just does all points like once. So if you want to loop through the points and say, if this point has this attribute, add this. That's happening to all points at the same time. So if you're adding some attribute, add the attribute first, do whatever you need, and then in the second wrangle, now that you have that data done, do it in the second wrangle and then just loop through your attribute there.
Okay. Cool, thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah? Okay. All right, I guess we can...
What's your favorite part in
sorry?
the package? What's your favorite thing in Nested? Like brains, water, pyro?
What's my favorite thing?
Yeah. I mean, I figure you probably even have something that you messed around with.
Roberto is pretty cool. Yeah, I like all of it. I don't know. It's kind of hard to sort of choose one thing, but I do like the part about building things, like creating systems that do something. That is pretty interesting to me. Like just like the procedural system we just created, like the window that's pretty interesting to me because it gives you the ability to do more than you expect. Sometimes those systems, when you create them, they give you unexpected cool results, which is pretty nice. And when you start, like, let's say you're doing a building and you do that window, and then you just build it with these small things, like the window, the door, the roof, the wall, and all that stuff, and then you put it together and you're like, wow, it's pretty cool that you can, like, we did just like 10 variations of a window really quickly. It's like, dude, that modeling that 10 variations of that window will not be that quick. Yep.
When you're building a tool like the Windows, do you tend to, like, all your controls, do you promote those to some higher level when you're done? Or do you just go in and you know where everything is, you can change all it?
Well, it depends how much time you have. Sometimes you just promote whatever you need. You know already. Like, let's say I'm gonna change the size, and I'm gonna change the open and close of the window. So you might start with those parameters, and then you create an HDA, expose those parameters. I think, I'm not sure if that's what side effects thought about when they created HDAs, but I think whenever I create an HDA, I think about simplifying stuff. I don't want to put like all the parameters in the HDA. It's like, why? So I tend to simplify stuff. I tend to do, like, let's say if I'm gonna do maybe an opening of the window, I just maybe add a parameter that doesn't go from destroying the window to super open or whatever. I just try to restrict it to where it works, makes sense. It doesn't break the window or whatever. Basically simplifying it, because you don't want to play with the parameters and turns out that everything is just broken when you put 5 or whatever. So yeah, I try always to get as few parameters as possible, and then if I need more control, I say, all right, I do need maybe the size, the thickness of the window, the thickness of the frame. Oh, I need different profiles for the frame or whatever. So I tend to just go from simple to adding detail. That's how I think about that stuff. Any other questions?
Could I add something potentially very basic but kind of specific?
Sure.
So someone mentioned earlier, like, you have a pane of windows and maybe you want to apply cracks or damage or something to just a few. Could you talk about, like, some strategies you might use to maybe just pick a small number of those windows at random, whether that's like percentage value or like sampling noise or something? Like, how would you just, if you have this big group, how would you just pick a few?
Okay. Well, there's a few ways you can group faces or anything. Let's see if I can do it right here. Where is this thing finished? Now this is not going to work. Just this, no, if I do that, it's not going to work. Save this and open it again. So let's say you want just the Windows part. How would you do this? Let me think a little bit. So if I just have these faces here, you could just randomly delete some of this. I know this is not gonna be basic, but there's a thing called pack that I use a lot to just work on things. This basically makes each one of these no, do an assemble. It basically just makes each one of these behave like a point. I can just treat it like it is a point. So from here I could do a random selection of these things and delete a few of them. Should I dare do some Bex live and be embarrassed? If run ptnum it's modular 2, let's see if that works. Remove point. What do I need here? 0 ptnum, right? Wrong. Cast from float to int. Oh, I didn't do any comparison here. No, it doesn't work. Let's do something else. Sorry? Oh yeah. Let's do something different. Let's just randomize this thing and let's do a random color on the points and just delete by color. Blast. Get out of the way. Or let's just do as primitives. We can do as primitives, right? Primitives, random color. Let's just delete the ones that are CDR greater than 0.5. So, alright, I'm deleting some of them here. I'm in this case I'm deleting by color. I just added random color to all those faces, and whatever is it's the more red parts I'm deleting. So I could, if I don't like, if this is gonna be totally random, I can do something like this, and you can even change the random colors and delete some others. If you want to control it more, you can maybe add a gradient of color going down and delete the ones at the bottom or the ones in the middle or whatever. But yeah, you can create any attribute you want, even by position. Let's say if I do this thing again, blast, if I want to delete, what am I doing? Where my thing is? Oh, I'm deleting everything. So let's say if the position y is greater than 1, delete them. Which ones are, why are they not deleted? Oh, let me change this to primitives and should work. Why is it not working? Position y is less than 1. I don't know. Not sure what's not gonna work, but yeah, you could do different ways to delete depending on what you need. In this case, if you wanna do it by an attribute in its color, you can do that. You could do that and then just maybe merge that back with your window that has the no. Yeah, actually, merge it with this guy, right? Hey, what happened? Oh, this has everything. Delete all. So now we have like just a few of them showing. The rest could be broken or could be made into fracturing and you have the pieces on the edges or whatever. And you can remove the color or something like that. Any other questions? No? Alright, so I guess that's it. Thank you for coming. If you guys want to stay and hang out, I'm going to be here. Thank you again.
Thank you.